Welcome to the Cory Lee Show, where our focus is on building leaders and transforming culture. My name is Cory Lee, and in each episode, I aspire to ignite something on the inside of you that encourages you to grow yourself and to make an impact on the world around you. Welcome to the Cory Lee Show. Welcome back to the Cory Lee Show. Hey guys, today I wanted to share with you something that I shared. This was kind of a teaching that I've been doing in our Legacy Builders community group, and just can give you an idea of what Legacy Builders is. It's a community of kingdom-minded entrepreneurs, business leaders, and ministry leaders who really want to grow. They want to grow themselves. They want to grow their businesses or ministries, but really not at the expense of their faith, their family, their fitness, or anything that any other thing that is important to them, and really just want to create a group of like-minded men and women to get in the room, to sharpen each other, and to grow together. And honestly, my heart is I really want us as leaders to make a shift from focusing on building just big churches or big businesses to focus on building big people, right? And I think that may be a lesson for another day, but my goal in that is to get us into a room where we sharpen one another. And so today, this lesson is actually from a lesson that I did in that group. And if you want to find out more about Legacy Builders, the community group, it's a free Facebook group in there, but we're also working on building out a coaching program. And in that coaching program, you would have a lifetime access or access to some teachings that we do on leadership, personal growth, how to set goals, how to accomplish goals, how to maximize time. All those kind of things would be on an online platform. And then we would have a mastermind group where you get in the room with other like-minded leaders on a consistent basis. And then you would have one-on-one coaching call per month. And so we're working on that. We're also, something else I'm super excited about is every year in January, I've been doing, for the last several years, been doing this goal setting workshop called, whatever the year is. This will be 2025. 2025, your best year yet. And actually, this is something that I created. Actually, I kind of created and took myself through probably starting around 2011, 2012. And I was just doing it personally and just created a workshop around it and have, just amazing results with that. It's just, it's one thing to set goals or to think about the things you want to accomplish, but to really to make the time to sit down and to reflect on the previous year, to capture the wins, capture, the lessons and how we can grow, and then set a game plan for the upcoming year. Many leaders, you're doers, you're type A playmakers, and you want to make things happen. And slowing down to get clear is not easy. And so in this workshop, we make the time to get clear on where we're at, where we're going. We get in the room with other like-minded leaders to get connected, and then we make the commitment of where we're going in 2025. And so anyway, this year I'm going to do that in 5 cities. We got a 5-city tour coming up in Tupelo, Mississippi. We got one in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Nashville, Tennessee. We got Baltimore, Maryland, and up in Knox, Indiana. Super excited about that. If you really want to find out more, if you want to come, tickets are $100 per person, and I'll have links in the show notes below. You can come to any of those cities, but we're really also looking for sponsors. So if you, your business, your organization would like to sponsor that, I can talk to you more about that. We have a local sponsorship and a tour sponsorship. Tour sponsorship is $1,000. It gets you 5 tickets to any city, any location that we go to. There's some other awesome things on there, like getting to sponsor a podcast episode, and then all these other cool things. So if you're really interested in that, just message me, and I can get you that information. Be happy to. Today, I wanted to share with you some of this content that I was sharing in there. And, there is a difference between goal setting and goal achieving. See, in goal setting, it's free. It's fun. You get to create, you get to think, you get to imagine all the things that you desire to do with your life. And, personal growth, it will teach you that goal setting is an intellectual activity. I'm going to suggest that for the kingdom leader, it's actually a spiritual activity. How many of you know that according to 1 Corinthians chapter 2, that you have the mind of Christ, that according to Ephesians, you have been blessed with every spiritual blessing in the heavenly places, and that you currently sit with him in heavenly places, that we now have freedom and access to sit with him in heavenly places. We have freedom and access to boldly come before the throne room of grace. What I'm saying is that I can sit at the very feet of the one who created all things, who knows all things, and ask him, what do you want to do with this life laid down? What do you want to do with my year? What goals and directions should I pursue? I don't have to be left to my own imagination and creativity. I'm telling you guys, Christians should be the wisest people on the planet. A few years ago, we were doing a Bible study on the intertestamental period of time. And I've heard my whole life, like, man, this was the silent years. And man, it was anything but silent. Okay, it was anything but silent. But the intertestamental period of time, if you go in your Bible, it's that period of time between the Old Testament and the New Testament. And in my Bible, it's just this white sheet of paper, right? It's a blank sheet of paper. There was so much that happened in that intertestamental period of time. If you think about it, in one page, right? One flip of the page. On one page, you have priest, you have the Levitical priesthood, you have the temple, and it's in Jerusalem, and the world power are the Medes and the Persians. Well, when you flip the next page, no longer is it a temple, but you got a bunch of sanctuaries. No longer is the Medes and the Persians that are in control. Now you have the Romans. And now it's not just the Levitical priesthood or priest. Now you've got Pharisees, Sadducees, Essenes, all of that. And so it's like something happened. And so we studied that. One of the most interesting things that happened there was this guy named Alexander the Great came on the scene. He was a Greek, and it says that Alexander the Great, he conquered the known world within 10 years. How about that? He conquered the known world in 10 years. And as we were studying that thought came to me. What could the Lord do with a life laid down in a 10-year period of time? And so I'm going to suggest that goal setting, the setting of goals, is actually a spiritual activity. You can say it's an intellectual activity, but it's the time where we create. Now, goal setting is different from goal achieving. See, goal achieving, it's much more of a verb. It's an action word. It's where we put our faith in motion. It's where we get out and we start doing the thing, right? We start the process. So in today's lesson, I really want to focus on that aspect, the aspect of goal achieving. And really, what are some of the common barriers that I've come to recognize that actually hold leaders back, and really those leaders and their teams back, and really barriers I've noticed in my own life. And so one of the first ones that I've come across is the comparison trap. The comparison trap. See, we look at people who may be further down the path than we are, and we get a little frustrated. Or maybe we look at people behind us and they're not as far along as we are, and we get a little complacent. And I had a mentor say one time, he said, Cory, when you get to heaven, God ain't going to ask you why you weren't more like Mother Teresa. He's going to say, why weren't you more like you? Why weren't you more like the Cory I designed and created you to be? Now, I've looked at some of my stats on the podcast, and man, we get people that listen from like 8 different countries around the world. And I don't know every single one of you, but there's something I know about every single one of you, and that's there ain't never been anybody like you. There never will be anybody exactly like you. See, you are unique. God created you on purpose for a purpose. And I believe that if you knew who God created you to be, then you wouldn't want to be anybody else. In fact, see, when I try to be someone else, all I can ever hope to be is a knockoff of the original. How about that? See, I'm the Equate brand. I become the Equate brand, right? And we find our identity in Jesus Christ. So we want to quit looking in the self-help aisle and feedback on social media platforms. We got to have a personal revelation of who Jesus is and who he says we are. And when I live from my identity as a son, it breaks off performance, it breaks off comparison, and breaks off cycles of sin. There's another trap in this comparison piece that I see us fall into, and it's we compare ourselves to our potential. We look at our current results, and maybe we have this big idea come into our mind and say, ooh, that's too big. I ain't never done nothing like that before. Ooh, that's too big right there. I look at this idea, this inspired idea, and I look at my current results and say, that's too big, or it doesn't match. And, let me ask you, if I were to ask you if your living room at your house, if that living room is a big room, is that room a big room? Would you say? You can put it in the chat. How about that? That's what they say. You got to call people out and tell them to put it in the chat, right? Would you say your room is big or small? And really, many of you probably understand this. It's compared to what? Compared to what? Like if you compare your living room to your bathroom, it's probably pretty big. But if you compare your living room to maybe an arena, a sporting venue, then your living room is actually pretty small. The room didn't change. The height, the width, the dimensions, none of that changed. But what we compared it to did change. So the room isn't big or small. It just is. And it's the same thing with this inspired idea. It's not big or small. It just is. And when I compare it to my current results, well, hopefully it is bigger than my current results, right? Because my current results are coming from past performance. This inspired idea is coming from future potential. So it's not big or small. We don't want to compare ourselves to other people, and we do not want to compare ourselves to our current results. With a life laid down, I'm telling you, he can do so much more than we can ever think, hope, or imagine. Let me say it like this. It's by dying to self that he can do the infinite. Here's just a couple of verses of scripture for you. This is John 12 and 1 Corinthians 15. John 12 says, very truly I tell you, this is Jesus talking, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. Anyone who loves their life will lose it, and anyone who hates their life in this world will keep it. Here's 1 Corinthians 15. What you sow does not come to life unless it dies. How about that? I want you to check out this quote. This is one of my favorite quotes. It talks about anyone can count the seeds in an apple, but no one can count the apples in a seed. See, you and I, we could crack open an apple and count how many seeds are in that thing. But if we were to plant that seed, it becomes a tree with a bunch more apples, which carry a ton more seeds. See, the apples within the seed can actually be infinite, but it can't be a possibility unless that seed goes into the ground and it dies so it can produce fruit. I'm telling you, I believe it's the same thing with mine and your lives. When we die to self, the return is infinite. So we want to stay out of comparison trap and focus on what he says and who says you are and boldly move forward. I think another barrier is when we allow someone else to determine our attitude. See, your attitude will determine your altitude. That's what Zig Ziglar always said. Your attitude will determine your altitude. Think about that. My attitude in certain circumstances plays a large part in how high up I can go in my life and my career. My attitude is my choice. And many of you that have listened to any of the podcasts that I've put out, you've probably heard me talk about this a bunch of times, but your attitude is your choice. There's a quote that says, the world holds up a merciless mirror reflecting back our character and our experiences. Think about that. The world holds up a merciless mirror reflecting back our character and our experiences. Here's what that is saying is that if everywhere I go, people seem to be mean and rude, then I may need to check my own character. If everywhere I go, people are backstabbing and gossipers, then according to this quote, I may need to take a look in the mirror because I'm reflecting out my character and it's reflecting back to me and my experiences. my wife and I, when we got married, we've moved to, in 8 years, we moved 11 times in a few different cities. We lived in Florence, Alabama, Jackson, Mississippi, Phoenix, Arizona, Tupelo, Mississippi. And man, I'm telling you, we loved all of them. But I can remember when we were thinking about moving down to Jackson, we were weighing our options and praying about, should we go to St. Augustine, Florida, or Jackson, Mississippi? And we're beach people. And so that made, from a reasoning standpoint, it made a lot of sense to go to St. Augustine, Florida. But we prayed about it, felt like the Lord was saying Jackson. And I can remember talking to people about that, and people were like, oh, you don't want to go down to Jackson now. You go down to Jackson, you get shot. But I tell you, we went down there, and I've made a lifelong friend, and it was a learning experience for us, and we met amazing people. Hey guys, I hope you are enjoying this episode of the Cory Lee Show. Y'all, I am on a mission to build leaders and to transform culture. So if you're looking for a speaker who speaks directly to the heart, a mentor to come alongside you and your team, or if you're in a position where you're looking for a personal coach who embraces where you are and also believes in who you could become, then I would be honored to walk this path with you. Simply reach out to me on my email at Cory@CoryLeeLeadership.com. Look, let's make your vision a reality. Contact me, and together we'll navigate the path from aspiration to achievement. Your transformation, it starts now. Now, if I would have went in with another attitude, I bet you I could have found reasons to hate every place that we went to. But your attitude will always be reflected in the experiences. See, there's got to be something different about you and I. You are the light of the world, and the light is attractive. I heard this guy preaching one time, and he was telling this personal story about how he grew up. I guess you would say more of an agnostic or maybe even atheist, but he grew up that way because he said he saw all these Christians just acting like everyone else in culture. If things got tough and people started complaining, then the Christians he saw complained too. They were into the same things as the world around him. They talked like the world around him. And he said he didn't want any part of that until he said he saw someone who truly lived out what they claimed. He said when he saw someone who lived out what he claimed, he became curious. And his curiosity ultimately led him to an encounter with Jesus. Y'all, there's got to be something different about you and I, and our attitude, it matters. Your attitude matters. My attitude matters. And I just want to say this, everybody's got a good attitude. Everybody's got a good attitude when things go good. Attitude is revealed when challenging times arise. I don't know if it was a boxer. I don't know if it was Muhammad Ali. It sounds like something Muhammad Ali would say, but I think it was Mike Tyson who said it. He said, everybody's got a plan until they get popped in the mouth. See, everybody's got a good attitude until an opportunity comes to not have a good attitude. Your attitude matters. Another barrier I see is incorrect use of imagination. In the book Think and Grow Rich, he makes a statement. He says, man's only limitation within reason lies in the development and the use of their imagination. See, we all use our imagination. I can come up with all the reasons why something will fail, or all the reasons why something will not work. I can come up with all the reasons why there's problems with it, or I can talk about all the problems in culture. That is me using my imagination. When I lay awake in bed and I worry, that is me using my imagination. But how many of you know that I can also come up with some solutions? I can come up with ideas of how things could work. I can create new ideas and think of possibilities. That is me using my imagination. Y'all, it takes zero talent whatsoever to call out the problems in culture and the world around us. Anybody can do that. I want to challenge us to be the solutionaries, to be the men and women that while everyone else is sitting around complaining, moaning, and whining, that we are the ones who seek and offer solutions. Here's how I see this as a barrier. How I see this as a barrier, this is the way it plays out. You set your goals and I'm just going to say a financial goals because I think it'll make sense right here. Let's say you're in business and your goal this year is I want to sell $1 million in I want to make $1 million in revenue. Say that's your goal. And let's say you get to about June or July, you're halfway through the year and you're only sitting at about 200,000. You're not even a quarter of the way there. And so what most people do is they'll take their goal and they'll shrink it to match the plan that they're on. They'll say, well, I'm at 200,000 right now. I'm halfway through the year. So let me shrink my goal from 1 million to 400,000. And what I want to suggest to you is if that 1 million is truly your goal, then do not change the goal. Do not shrink the goal. Change the plan. Take the plan and chunk it out the window. Something's not working. Find you a new plan. If that plan doesn't work, chunk that plan. Keep working of finding you a plan that will take you along the path to the goal. Don't change the goal, change the plan. I want to step into a side of leadership real quick. In leadership, there's this principle we call the 1-3-1 principle, and I really like this. This is where, like, if you see one problem, think about 3 solutions, and of those 3 solutions, what's your one favorite? The 1-3-1 principle. You see a problem? Think of 3 solutions, and out of the 3, which one's your favorite? Act on the thing. That is you using your imagination. The last 2 barriers that I kind of see, I'm just going to kind of put them together here. I won't go into too much depth with it, but the next one is we do not commit to growth. See, growth is the only guarantee that tomorrow will be better. And if I'm not growing today, then I am today all I will ever be. I simply cannot lead you tomorrow based on today's leadership understanding. I got to get better, right? And I love the way Coach John Wooden talks about it. He says, make today your masterpiece. And what he's talking about, what he means is that today I'm going to do everything that I can do to reach today's ceiling. But the very moment I wake up in the morning and I put my feet on the floor, I am now standing on yesterday's ceiling. Yesterday's ceiling has now come today's floor. I got to get better. And see, to get better, I got to be willing to be uncomfortable. Growth is always on the other side of the comfort zone. Growth is always, y'all, I wish I could tell you there was something else, but it ain't. It is on the other side of your comfort zone. It's where you toe the line of comfort. And on the other side of that line is unfamiliarity and uncertainty. It is toeing that line and boldly stepping across that doggone thing. That is where growth lies. And I just want you to know, as you push to see how far you can go, you will eventually discover how far you can go. When you push your limits, you will discover where your current limits lie. Y'all, that is a tremendous opportunity for growth. But it's also a place where the great majority are simply unwilling to discover because of fear. The fear of failure. And I believe it is truly a bold act to go all in on your life. I wrote about this in my book, Champion. So if you've read that book, you've probably heard me talk about this. But I believe it is a bold act to go all in on your life. It is a bold act because it takes vulnerability to go all in. See, if I go all in, it's like, what if I do everything I know to do to prepare? And what if I do everything I can do with the best of my ability? And what if my best of my ability just isn't enough? What if I fail? Y'all, that is an amazing opportunity for growth and awareness. When you step out to see how far you can go, you will discover it. And failure is simply a pathway to success. You cannot truly gain success, I do not think. Every great person I've met, every great person I've read about, they will tell you they are standing on a pile of failures. They have failed forward. They have failed fast. I think John Maxwell talks about it. Fail often, fail fast, and fail forward, right? You don't want to go back. You don't want to stay there. And honestly, it's only failure if you stay there. So get up and get back going. The last one I would say is we settle for good enough. Good is the enemy of great. In the book, Good to Great, Jim Collins, I don't have the quote right here in front of me, and so I may butcher the total quote, but I'm going to paraphrase it. But he says, good is the enemy of great. But he said, we do not have great schools principally because we have good schools. We do not have great government principally because we have good government. And we have so few who attain great lives because it's so easy to settle for a good life. How about that? Good is the enemy of great. I want to kind of end this podcast with a story. I heard John Maxwell say, he was telling this story. He said he was a pastor of a church. He said this was a small country town. And at this church, I mean, they may have had 50 to 60 members, and he wanted to challenge the congregation. And they were going to make a big deal. The goal was to have 300 people at church on one Sunday. And he said those farmers looked at him and said, man, they ain't seen 300 people in their whole lives, like a very rural community. But he's like, can you help me? Can we do this? Let's do this together, right? Let's get 300 people in here. And so they did it. They did everything they could do. And it came time for the Sunday where they were going to try to have 300. And they were doing their worship music and had the guys going around and counting. And so when it got time for him to speak, he goes up, he asked the guy to come up and say, hey, how many people do we have here? And the guy said, we have 299. 299. And John's like, wow. Everybody was like, wow, that is amazing. They were excited, right? They were super excited, could not believe that they had 299. But John said he wasn't happy. He asked the congregation, how many people did we say we wanted to have? And they said 300. He said, well, how many do we got? And they said 299. He said, well, I'm not preaching until we get 300. And he asked the musician to come back up. He said, play us some more songs. I'm going to go find one more person. And he said he walked out the doors and everybody was cheering and all that. And he gets out the doors like, man, where in the world am I going to find one other person? He said he looked across the street at an auto shop, and there were two guys there that, he knew them because they were across the street from the church. He goes up to them, and he said everybody in the valley knew what they were going for, and these two guys, they never really went to church. And he goes up to them, and they say, well, preacher, how many folks you got? And he says, we got 299. He said, how many? And then he asked them the question, which one of you guys wants to be the hero of this valley? And after we eat, everybody served them chicken dinner and wants to be the hero of this valley. And I was like, well, what you mean? It's like, we've got 299. We just need one more person, 300. Which one will you be? And he said they both looked at each other and they put a closed sign on their door and they both came. He had 301 on a Sunday. The reason I share that here is hearing that story, to me, it challenges me. And I'm just be honest with you guys. It challenges me because how easy would it be to set a goal of 300 and get to 299 and to say, wow, that's pretty good. That's close enough. I'm telling you, good is the enemy of great. Do not settle for good enough. Y'all, I hope today has encouraged you. Hope it has added value to you. I would love to hear some of your feedback. Also, feel free to share this with a friend or family member. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with any of the latest episodes of the Cory Lee Show. I'll also have in the show notes, I'll have the links to the goal setting workshop. Again, we'll be in Tupelo, Mississippi, Hattiesburg, Mississippi. We'll be in Nashville, Tennessee, Baltimore, Maryland, and up in Knox, Indiana. Would love to see you there. I could truly use some help with some sponsors. And so if your business would love to be a sponsor, we got some great benefits for you. Just feel free to reach out to me. I would love to partner with you on that. And so we can bring transformation to not only individuals, but families and communities. So I appreciate you guys. I hope you have a great day and God bless.
3, 2, 1. Okay.
Thanks for joining me today. I hope I have added value to you. And if you have found value in this episode, let me know. Drop a comment and make sure you share with a friend or family member. See you next episode.